Hello everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is the weekly wrap-up. Welcome to everyone on YouTube. Welcome to everyone on Patreon. If you're over on YouTube and you want to hear exciting, mesmerizing, entertaining stuff every day, you got to go to Patreon, and that's $2 a month. Had to throw that little spot out. That's the only thing that costs money. Everything else here is free. Everything, man, from the preparedmind.club where you can go get stuff for free. Not for free, shit. Did I say free? I apologize. Just the lowest price possible. That's all. And if you got a mom and pop store in your town, shop there first. If you can't get it there, then go to the preparedmind.club just because. Mom and pop stores are cool. I still dig them when I find them. Alright, so here we are, the weekly wrap-up. What does it mean? What's it about? Are we getting closer to shit hitting the fan? Yes or no? Every week I come on here wanting, willing, waiting for a week when I can say, you know what? I think we backed away from it. I think we slowed up a little. So, this week, it's no different as far as I'm concerned. We're definitely moving closer to shit hitting the fan. We're getting closer to the midterm elections. We're seeing all sorts of indicators that say, look the fuck out. Now, I want to start with the mainstream media. Censorship is still going full blast. In fact, this week, President Trump, and I love saying President Trump just because it still amazes me, even after almost 2 years, it still amazes me. 2 years since he really became the candidate. The mainstream media is censoring everyone, and Trump says he's going to go after him. It wasn't a little bit. He ended his tweet with an exclamation point, meaning and saying something needs to be done. You see, the mainstream media, they need to control the narrative. They need to control your thinking. They need to control where you get your ideas. What they want is a left-right paradigm, where they give you answer A or answer B and say choose between them. But on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, you can get multiple versions that don't come from the mainstream media. You can get some outlandish shit, and I'm going to talk about some. You can get some mainstream stuff, and you can get everything in between. Somewhere, the truth lies. And I don't mean they lie like the mainstream media lies, like the fake news. I'm talking about the truth lies somewhere. Is it under that leaf? Is it behind that tree? Is it on the other side of that rock? Well, if they give you two answers to choose from, left or right, you'll never find the truth. So we need to find it where it lies. It is where it lies. And censorship isn't about shutting me up or shutting you up. It's about keeping all of us from hearing options. See, free speech isn't about talking as much as it's about listening. I talk to thousands of people through this service. It's not that they've silenced me, it's that they've deafened all of you. And it's with every platform everywhere. They want to deafen us so that we don't hear, we don't learn, and we don't find the truth. Fight it, resist it, let them know. Right? Support every channel you can, whether it's by subscribing or thumbs-upping, or referring other friends to them through sharing. All of those things help keep the alternative media going until they either silence us fully or we're set free. Are we getting closer to shit hitting the fan? Yes, as long as they're censoring us, you bet. So, let's look at some economics. Weeks ago, months ago, we talk about this country and that country. The mainstream media can't contain it because it's news and it comes out. But they're only going to give you a little of this and a little of that. We've got trouble in Venezuela. That hasn't gone away. You may not be hearing about it every day, but it's still there. Those people are still starving. They still have 1,000,000% inflation. Now, we get upset at 2-3% inflation here. We're like, that's getting kind of high. 1,000,000%. Woo! That's something. What about Italy? Well, just a month and a half ago, Italy was big news. Where have they been? Don't worry, they're still fucked up. Argentina years ago had a problem, and they're back, and then they're gone, but they're still here. They're still having major currency issues. In fact, whether we're talking about Spain or France or Germany or down in South America, Argentina or Venezuela or Brazil, it doesn't matter where, the emerging markets, that is, these little countries that don't have as big a geographical footprint as the U.S., they're all emerging markets, and they are hurting. Scary shit. And speaking of scary shit, the U.S. and Mexico came to terms, basically yesterday and today, late Thursday, but NAFTA seems to be not a big deal again. The North American Free Trade Agreement seems to be basically dead. Trump's saying, I'm not going to play by that rules. We're going to renegotiate, which is the way things used to be done. We don't like what you're doing, so we're going to pull back. We like what you're doing. We're going to cooperate. Let's help each other. It's about helping each other. It's about cooperation, mutually beneficial relationship. Sure would be great, though, wouldn't it, if the United States government shared with the people a mutually beneficial relationship where they didn't just tax the fuck out of us and give us nothing for it. Nothing for it. The amount of taxes I pay, 40% of my income, and what do I get for it? Well, you ride on the roads, John. Well, I pay fuel taxes out the ass in California. Oh, well, you get national defense. Really? Who's invading the country? Right? There's all these things. And I'm not saying we don't need a national defense. I'm not saying we don't need roads. I'm just saying for what I pay, I don't get shit. Right? A lot of Americans say, you know what? Let an enemy try and invade us and we'll take care of them. But I never, ever, ever want the military underplayed. I just don't. They are very important. But how they're being used and abused is important. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so NAFTA's done. Trump made a deal with the president of Mexico. They came to an agreement. Canada, and I love my Canuck neighbors to the north. My Canadian brothers, I love those guys. We're simpatico, eh? Right? We get along good. But the government has been doing what? Fighting Trump. Trudeau, a guy I like to think of as a pussy, has been siding with the European Union, with the EU. Right? That's what he's been doing. And now, as soon as we made a deal with Mexico, Canada's kind of being left behind. Right? They threw an enormous fit on Friday because... Why? Because they're out. They're not in anymore. Doesn't mean they can't get in. They could be in Tuesday or Thursday or Friday of next week. But guess what? You want to play ball, you got to come and play ball. You can't negotiate without negotiating, in other words. So, very interesting. Why is that closer to shit hitting the fan? Because if the economic system was so good, if NAFTA was such a great deal, and it's been serving us so well all these years, these decades now, because that was a fucking Clinton fiasco, a great sucking sound of our business leaving this country, damn right it sucked, and damn right they left. Maybe I'll run into this. But if it was such a good system, why are we needing to abandon it? Because it's not good for the United States of America. I'll get into it. Corporations are a creature of the state. They owe their existence and their life to the state. Without the state, they cannot exist. Unlike you and I, we're natural-born human beings. Corporations are fictitious persons in law. That means they require a government to sponsor them and declare them alive. But what are they? They're corpse. They're corporations. Corpses. They're dead things. They are a thing in law. Thing. Every word has meaning in statute. Anyways, corporations used to be only allowed to exist if they benefited the country, the people. They had to benefit people in addition to making money for themselves. If they didn't benefit the people, the government could withdraw their corporate documents. This is the old days now. This is a long time ago, when corporations weren't legal persons with the right to influence political elections by making campaign donations in exorbitant sums and outspeaking you and me. But a corporation, back then, if they said, look, we're going to move our manufacturing facilities out of the country and overseas, but we're still going to do business there. oh, don't worry, we'll pay taxes when we show a profit. But we're not going to show a profit because we're going to make income distributions to all of our shareholders. In the meantime, we're going to do business overseas, take advantage of cheap resources, cheap labor, and then sell products back at a minor discount to make people feel good about buying a name that used to be made in America, but fuck you, America. That hasn't worked for us. If they're fucking you and they're fucking me and they're fucking the country, then fuck them. Right? These free trade agreements don't help us. The indication that I get, because Trump is making deals with Mexico and talking to other countries, independently setting things up, is things are not good. There's going to be a collapse or a reset, a major recession, whatever you want to call it. Whatever colorful fucking terminology they're going to call it. Kind of like austerity is a nice way of saying we're going to triple your taxes and cut your benefits. But it sounds so cool. It's austerity. Right. What are these people doing? They're setting up new systems because a collapse is coming. In my opinion, it's basically imminent. It's when they finally decide to let the house of cards fall. And they're holding them up with their own fingers. What do you think QE is about? They're holding it up. Corporate stock buybacks, they're holding their own companies up. Lying about unemployment, GDP, inflation, employment numbers, they're lying about them all to hold the house of cards up. That's where we're at. So, let's move along to something else. Gee whiz, is our system great, or are we heading to shit it's the fan? Federal Reserve Chairman Powell. He was a hawk, right? We're raising interest rates, we're raising interest rates, we're raising interest rates. Now he's a dove. Well, I don't know. Is he a hawk or is he a dove? There was this complaint by Trump, and Trump doesn't get off the hook with me. I'm going to watch him as close as anyone else, because he holds a lot of power. Back during the campaigning 2 years ago, he said that the Federal Reserve had been politicized. And he didn't like that, right? Why would you point it out if it's negative, right? And you're trying to point at your campaign adversary, like Hillary, and say that the Fed is being politicized. Now Trump is going, don't raise rates, because they need that house of cards up. If they raise rates up enough to counter the inflation, to try and stop what's happening, the crumbling, that's politicizing it. Whether it's better for me or not, whether it's gooder for you or not, it doesn't matter. It's still politicized because the president is trying to influence it. So, is Powell hawkish or dovish? Is the Federal Reserve politicized or independent? And I don't think they're independent because they're connected to banks and major corporations and they're all good buddies. How the fuck can they be independent if they're doing things to help each other out? Sounds a lot like collusion, right? That's right. So, rate hikes have been good since Trump took office. Raise them. Raise those rates. No more 0%, 1%, 2%. Get them up there. Rate hikes are good. Really? Well, if they're good, why are you stopping? Right? If they're good, don't we need more? And if they're bad, why even start raising them? Now, I know there's a balance level, right? The pendulum swings. We need it in the good position. Why is this so hard to figure out? Aren't these the smartest people in the world? I really don't think that. I really don't think that. Ha! Trump, says Sessions, Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He's going to leave him in place until the midterm election is over. Why? I like to ask the question why, don't you? Don't you love the question why? Why the fuck are you doing that? Why has he been allowed to stay in if he's not really doing much? And if QAnon is right, remember all that trust sessions, where we go one, we go all? Well, guess the fuck what? He wants to get rid of him. He's needed to get rid of him. And I understand, I really do, political expediency. I understand legal and political wrangling. I get it. And I know he can't tell us everything, the president can't, why he's keeping him in or getting rid of him. He can't just tell us, because then the fucking adversaries know. Right? Satan means adversary or enemy. He can't say anything because the adversaries will know. If you're basically on Trump's side, you're for more freedom and less communism, then the adversary is our Satan. It's funny how they're also satanic. They like to defend pedophiles. They like to defend all of their corruption and graft. Right? And I don't think you have to be just totally overtly satanic to be called satanic. I don't like anyone who's corrupt and shitty. Right? It's a fucked up thing. Anyways, Sessions is going to stay in, but he's going to get rid of him. I love the idea of QAnon and leaking information and everything else so that we can be confident, we can support him, and we can look and we can help him, blah, blah, blah. But it hasn't done any good. 2 years in, at the campaign time, right, at the beginning of the heavy campaigning season, we've seen just a little bit of activity as far as cleaning up the swamp, draining the swamp, exposing the creatures, and then getting rid of them. It hasn't gone as fast or as far as I would like in this time, and maybe he's getting rid of Sessions because Sessions is compromised. How hard is it to get blackmail? How hard is it to extort somebody who's been in Washington for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years? Oh, they're going to get invited to special parties with hookers and cocaine and who knows what else. And they're going to get them doing something wrong and then use it against them later. One of those great reasons why I think term limits is fantastic as far as a concept that will just make people automatically have to go. They can't stay in there to further enrich themselves. And they can't stay in there because they're being extorted and told, you're going to continue to vote our way and you're coming back next year. Sorry, campaign reform, term limits, you're out of here. Bam. Right? They can wash their hands and be gone. Anyways, that was an aside. Pardon me. But Sessions, is he going? I thought we were supposed to trust Sessions. He's on our side. He's a good guy. Well, looks like he's going to be on his way out. And Trump is trying to keep the lid on that shit. He's trying to keep the bullshit and panic down. He's trying to keep it as even, as calm as possible. I believe he's doing it for economic reasons. He doesn't want to stir the bee cage up, the beehive, too much. I know he wants to. He hints at it all the time. In fact, he says it all the time, but he hasn't been able to. He needs to get through this midterm. We need to get the red wave, however big that is. We need to hold everything so there's no impeachment shit, and then maybe, hopefully, the shit hits the fan in D.C. So, where California goes, so goes the nation. And where the U.S. goes, so goes the world. Well, let's take a look at California. It's full of fruitcakes and nuts, and I am here amongst them. I feel like I'm in a freaking agricultural basket at the store. Nuts and fruits everywhere. Still, what is California doing right? Not a lot. What are they doing wrong? Well, let's just take a look at the Public Employee Retirement System. CalPERS. PERS, Public Employee. Every state has their own version of PERS, whether they call it PERS or something else. It's PERS, Public Employment Retirement System. Public Employee Retirement System. Rum and Coke isn't tasty. Anyways, it's broke. California, it's broke. What supports all of these retirees in this state that get god-awful amounts of cash and benefits every month because they managed to work 20 years? What do they get? And I am making fun of them, right? Because and not because they're bad people. I'm not really even making fun of them, except they bought into this idea collectively that everybody that goes to work for the state is entitled to the greatest, massivest, hugest, greatest, goodest retirement for doing as little as possible. The PERS system. Well, all of the money that's collected from state employees goes into a big basket and gets shipped on out to Wall Street. If we have, and we have had two in the last 17 years, economic resets, economic corrections, economic collapses. That public employee retirement system money disappears, poof, and it goes into someone else's bank account. That wealth gets transferred to the really powerful people, the banks, the investment funds, the super duper wealthy that know what's going to happen before anyone else does. PERS is broke right now, and if the market collapses, it's really broke. We want to talk about a shitstorm, but it's not just California. So where California goes, so goes the nation. Like Illinois, Ohio, is it Kentucky or Tennessee or both? Doesn't matter. New York, a bunch of states, some more than others, are completely fucked up. The more blue or Democrat a state is, the more fucked up they tend to be. The more they tend to squander and waste their money and overpromise to their employees. It's going to be a big problem. So where California goes, so goes the nation. And where our nation goes, which is going broke, so goes the world. The whole world is up and over their eyeballs in debt, in money printing, in theft, graft, corruption, and just overall fuckery. The system is in trouble, and we're seeing more evidence of it this week. And I want to end this with McCain, the senator whose name I don't like to mention, but sometimes do. And I don't always drink beer. When I do, I drink Dos Equis. And when I don't always mention asshole politicians, but when I do, I like to mention McCain because he was amongst the greatest of assholes. He quit taking his medication, and within a week he died. I think this happened last Saturday after the live broadcast. It was announced. I didn't shed a tear. I didn't even think twice about it. I did not like the man. I did not like his politics. I did not think there was anything honorable about the man. Sorry. Too fucking bad. That's just how I feel, based on the information I have, and in the information I've actually brought out on video, some of it. But there's been some interesting talk about McCain. Now, we sometimes talk about conspiracy theories, and a lot of times I like to offer a lot of evidence. But something came up this week, and I thought it was worth mentioning. There is such a demand, there's such a desire to see the problems corrected in this country. The people have looked at McCain's death and said, we think he turned state's evidence, that he was brought before a tribunal, and that he confessed his sins, admitted guilt, named names, and did a plea bargain, basically, saying, I know I'm treasonous, but I want an honorable death. I want to be remembered as a good man to the Americans. But I'm going to roll over and snake over on everyone else, and then I'm going to quit taking my medication, and I'll be dead within a week. And we can say I died because of that, and not because I'm a treasonous prick. That is the conspiracy theory. And a lot of people say, it's so easy to see, how can you not see it? It's hard for me to believe that the government would allow someone to die differently than the way treason demands. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but it doesn't mean it does. But it is an interesting piece that we may never have an answer to. What really happened to John McCain? Right? The evidence I have that it wasn't normal is that he is widely regarded, or rather popularly regarded, as someone who has some sort of war hero status because his plane was shot down and he was tortured by the enemy. I don't know if that makes him a hero, but it makes him a prisoner of war and someone who was tortured by the enemy. And he was lucky enough to survive and come back. And he was heralded as a hero. I don't know. Right? He was also accused of rolling over and snitching on American and giving out every secret he could, etc. I don't know. I've never had my arms and shoulders broken and pulled out of their sockets for days on end, so I can't say how hard that is to deal with. But I imagine it hurt like a motherfucker. Anyways, McCain. Right? Did he come off his drugs, or was that his death sentence? Did he plea out this ability? Now, Trump, President Trump, there was some contention over his words about McCain. There was some disagreement over the flag being at half-staff. Now, if he was a true hero, regardless of whether or not you like the politics, if he was a true hero, President Trump should have never even considered having that flag at anything other than half-staff instantly. He was not only, a vet, he was not only a senator, he was also a presidential candidate. That rises pretty high in politics. Don't you think that Trump would respect that? But he didn't. So there has to be a damn good reason why, and it has to be bigger than petty politics. But that is the only evidence I can see for him turning state's evidence and rolling over and being given an honorable death instead of being called a traitor and tried and hung publicly as such. So it's an interesting conspiracy theory. But it is such an oddity that I put it in the shit is going to hit the fan sooner, we're getting there category. It goes into that column because it is just that fucking bizarre. His family's throwing a fit. His daughter's everyone's throwing a fit over this week. And I'm thinking, you know, McCain just wasn't that impressive, right? Now, this is an interesting, funny thing. And it's funny to me. You know, if any McCains are out there looking at me, it is funny to me that the man who supposedly or reputedly, and I wasn't there in Vietnam, so I don't know, rolled over on his own people. Which, hey, if he was tortured, I get it. I fucking get it. But then he became a politician here in the United States of America and called himself a Republican, but he rolled over on Republicans all the time. The man was such a shitball that if he found 5 people to form a coalition, the McCain 7, or whatever their fucking number was, that he could hold the rest of the Republican Party hostage until he got what he wanted. That is not power. That is chicken shit. That is holding everyone else hostage or extortion to get what he wants before he votes any person's way. There's nothing honorable about that in politics. You stand for what you stand for, and that's it. Rand Paul, in my opinion, does a great job of that. Sometimes people love him, sometimes they don't, but he stands for what he stands for. Right, so anyways, yeah, McCain. He's an interesting piece of evidence that says we're getting closer to shit hitting the fan. Because of the way the president acted alone over his death. He didn't mourn him. He didn't have flowery words for him. He didn't honor him. In my opinion, he didn't deserve it. When you pose for glad-handed backslapping I love you bro with terrorists that just weeks before on Syrian TV or the internet cut off a young boy's head. That is not an honorable position to hold. And I didn't hear him come out and apologize and go, you know what, I thought those were the good guys. I really thought that they were good, and I am sorry for standing with them and acting like I was their buddy. Didn't know that they were evil pricks. I never heard that speech. I didn't get that fucking letter in the mail. That email wasn't in my mailbox, apologizing for posing and working closely with people who think it's cute, cool, politically expedient to murder children. I have no love for John McCain. Not a bit. But everything surrounding his death is very fascinating, very interesting. And I don't see it as proof, but I see it as there's bits of information in there that are useful in indicating what could be happening. So don't lose hope, don't lose faith, don't lose heart, but definitely prep, food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Have a plan, be ready, don't get caught off guard. You've got to be ready. I talked to some people today that normally don't talk. I talked to some people today who are usually pretty tight-lipped, who are very conservative. Not in a political way, but in a way they talk about what is going on. Right? They're not rabble-rousers. They're not shit disturbers. But what did they talk about to me, privately? What is going on in this country and what their predictions are. And they've been watching for quite some time, I was told, and the prediction is, you better get your shit together because we've got trouble. We've got trouble. I can't give any more clues than that, or it could get my ass in hot water. Anyways, shit is going to hit the fan. What are you going to do about it? I know that chance favors the prepared mind, so is yours. I'll see you guys Monday on Patreon. For everyone else, thank you for coming by. Hit the like button, hit the share button, share these videos. Any video you like, don't be afraid to share it with friends. You've got to help other people. And if you need help, you can come here anytime, or you can go over to the preparedmind.club. We've got more than just things for sale. We've got forums, information, blogs, other video recommendations. So that's the preparedmind.club. So, in parting, I'll say Godspeed to all and Semper Fi. I'll see you very soon. Playtime is over. Get your Prepared Mind merchandise to show your support for the channel, stop censorship, and to tell YouTube they can smoke it. Get prepared now.